It's true. I had to take a wedding vow to root for the Dallas Cowboys. So that's probably my hardest wedding vow to uphold.
I 100% believe that the polarization is a creation of the system to protect the system. Whether you win or Uncle Fred wins the argument isn't going to change anything on the planet. Welcome to Bourbon and Rum, the podcast dedicated to civil conversation. I'm Kent, I like rum, and I'm from the left side of the aisle.
And I'm Kyle. I like bourbon. I tend to be a little more conservative. We're brothers talking politics over bourbon and rum.
What are you drinking?
Well, I'm sipping on a Henry McKenna bottled in bond. It's a 10-year bourbon out of the Heaven Hill Distillery down in Kentucky, and really smooth whiskey. It was really one of these that was really hard to find for a while. It's like, man, you could never get it anywhere, and now it's like everywhere. And it's funny. There's if anybody hears the Jim Gaffigan he's got a new bourbon related comedy show, and he goes through like the stages, like, I don't know what the stages are, but like stage one, you drink a lot of it, and stage two, you spend a bunch of money and you hide purchases, and like the last stage is not only are you drinking all this stuff, but you're actually watching shows on YouTube of other people looking for bourbon, and which I do, and but this guy was saying he's been searching, and all the high end stuff like Pappy, the prices are coming way down because I think the peak is over, which is good.
Well, yeah, and honestly, it's been hot for long enough that places can start putting away enough stock to start getting ahead of the curve. I don't know what's a lot of the ones you drink. I mean, we're not talking about 20-year. I mean, obviously those are around, but a lot of the stuff that you're looking for are 3-4 year, 5. I don't know, like not super agey like scotches or anything.
Yeah, I mean 10 years. I mean the really good stuff is 10 plus, but yeah, I mean it's so much of it is just hype. What are you drinking on?
I am drinking this. I've had this before. It's not very good. It is Bolivar. And this is their 8-year specialty blend, and it is made in Venezuela.
Yeah,
named after
on the Venezuela kick.
Exactly. Named after Simon Bolivar, the liberator of much of South America. So, fun fact, Simon Bolivar, Bolivia took his name. Yeah. So a great revolutionary leader. Well, this is going to be our Christmas episode for this year, which is kind of fun to look. What we didn't do is run it through AI and have it pull out the best obnoxious quotes from us for the entire last year. But it is kind of, everything does their year in review. But so we might do a little of that, a little of a review of what we've talked about, how far the world's come in the last year. And then the other thing we thought is that the holiday season, especially over the last 10, 15 years, I don't know, have become kind of contentious for people. Politics has always been a little divisive, but I think everybody would agree that the temperature has gone way up on that. And we know that our listeners are probably going to be spending time with family and may have some dread about how their own conversations go. But this is why we started this, is that we wanted to be able to talk to each other in a civil and respectful and hopefully constructive way. And we thought we would throw out sort of, what we've learned doing this that might be useful to you, dear listener, when you're around people that disagree with you.
Yeah, I mean it's a increasingly problematic issue, and I don't know. I mean, I will say I think it's been worse. I mean, since the initial Trump presidency, I think is the height of the probably the contentiousness of holiday fears of people talking, but it's always been an issue to a degree of people worried about everybody fighting and arguing over politics. I think maybe one of the differences is, in the past, and I think some of it is a Trump thing, but I think some of it is also a social media thing in that, 20 years ago, we'd be sitting around, and if we were talking about politics, some people would be like, politics? Why are you talking about politics? Like it was a smaller segment of the society that was really concerned with national government and national politics. Everybody else is talking about sports or something else. But then I think a big part of it is, well, one, Trump's getting a lot of sound bites and stirring the media up. That was part of his strategy. But also you've got TikTok and you've got Instagram and you got all these voices now. And it's like everybody's got a political opinion now. And it seems like, if you took a family gathering today to a family gathering 30 years ago, on average, my guess is there's not nearly as much political talk 30 years ago than there is now.
I think that's a really, really good observation. And I'll say that in addition to the way social media makes things ubiquitous, the other thing it does is that it drives us down into the weeds. I mean, if people talked about politics in the past, okay, are we going to war with Venezuela or not? I mean, that's a big topic, right? Did the bill pass that was going to change the tax structure? That's those are kind of like big ticket items. But honestly, it's not just big ticket items that we're looking at now. Now it's whatever happened in the last news cycle and who holds J.D. Vance's hand or not, or whether his wife's wearing her wedding ring. You know what I mean? Like,
or like which electric car is okay and which one crosses a political boundary, or it's like everything. There's some political angle, and so it just in some respects it's. In the past, I think you could have just, hey, here's your strategy for politics. Don't bring it up. But now it's like every topic. It's intertwined with every topic.
Yeah. Well, I think about this with our mother, because different times I'll just be having conversations with her and she'll say something just kind of matter of fact. And I'm like, but. And is it do me any good to go? You know what I mean? Like, if I picked out everything that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, like we wouldn't even have conversations.
Yeah. Well, part of it too, it's funny, and I think we've talked about it before. But like it would be refreshing for me for a political candidate, or even a president or a senator or somebody, and somebody raises some obscure. Well, what do you think about this? To say, I don't know. I don't have an opinion. But nobody ever says that. I mean, they've got an opinion on every stinking possible thing. So these people run for president, and it's like, well, what's your position on the cockroach infestation at the Motel 6 and wherever? They've researched it. They've got a game plan. And it's like, I feel like that's translated to a degree with the help of social media to everybody. Like, everybody's got a stinking opinion about everything,
Yeah.
And, even like, I think we were laughing during, I think it was during COVID or something, and everybody's opining on what should be done. And, so I was like some kind of meme or something like, well, I'm an expert on, vaccine strategy. I'm an expert on health and, like, everybody's an expert on everything now because they've all got opinions and they read something somewhere, and I say I'm probably in that boat too, but it's like, it's exhausting.
No, I like that idea a lot. Hey, I'm running for president. I get 8 things that I really care about. And the rest of it, look, the government's working okay. I'm not going to blow everything up. I'm going to leave well enough alone. Congress has responsibility. They got to figure out how to pay for stuff. But these are the 8 things I really care about and that I know about and that I'm interested in. And so you're not going to pin me in the corner on,
Yeah. There's stuff.
Who's the prime minister of Tajikistan? I don't know. I got a State Department to handle that. Like, we'll figure that out.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
Oh, go ahead.
So we've established that the political dialogue over the holidays is unavoidable. So it's ubiquitous now. You're stuck talking politics. How do you navigate that? I guess a question I'd throw out, a rhetorical question. Are political disagreements over the holidays really about the subject matter, or are they about something else?
It's a good question. I think, what do you mean by something else? I mean, I hear you, and I think I agree with you, but in some ways, our politics are deductive now rather than inductive. Like, we start with a given premise. I'm a Democrat, therefore X and Y and Z. Rather than starting, how do I feel about food stamps? How do I feel about healthcare costs? How do I feel about immigration? How do I feel about drug shipments from Venezuela? And then working my way backward to what my opinions are. We start with the given. I'm on team A or team B, and team A or team B believe this. And you don't do that always. You do sometimes. I don't think I do that always, but I certainly do sometimes fall in line with the team. I think that's more typical today than maybe in the past. I remember growing up, we grew up in a Republican family in the era of Reagan, and people were pretty, in general supportive of what was going on, but that didn't mean that everybody was just sycophantic. Everything the guy does is great. There was lots of eye rolling about stuff and dumb things that cabinet officers did. And it wasn't a monolith that people fell into. In fact, that's really risky because the politicians of either side don't have to fear the pushback of their own party. I mean, I 100% believe that the polarization is a creation of the system to protect the system.
So I did a little, I was just doing some spitballing on the subject, and I'll admit I used ChatGPT, but I was just trying to come up with some ideas around the discussion topic. And I thought this was a really good angle. Is it said holiday political arguments aren't really about politics. They're about status, identity, and who feels like they're losing ground. And I thought about that, and I think
especially that last, I think. But yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, that might be the biggest thing, because I think a lot of times, okay, you walk into a situation, I believe this, or let's use a analog of sports. I actually had to take a wedding. It's true. I had to take a wedding vow to root for the Dallas Cowboys. So that's probably my hardest wedding vow to uphold. But over 15 years now, I've gotten to become a fan. And so, and they're a polarizing team. I mean, a lot of people love them. A lot of people hate them. I have not found anybody that's like lukewarm about the Cowboys. It's one or the other. But when you get around a hater, and you're just hearing that, well, he's an idiot and he sucks and he's a jerk, and I'm like, well, that's my team. You're insulting my team. And, and on the one hand, you step back and be like, why the hell do I care what somebody thinks of the Dallas Cowboys? I mean, they don't care what I think. But at the same time, if you entrench yourself on that team and your identity to some degree is around that team, well, because, I got my best friend who's a roommate at the academy. Well, he hates the Cowboys, and he's always like loving to rub it in. And so at the beginning of a game, I'll text out like, go Cowboys. And, then we get crushed, and he loves it. As always, they suck, but it's like you're right. There's like this identity thing wrapped into it where like, well, I don't want to have somebody insult me. I'm going to tell these sons of bitches that I got it right. And I think that really relates to politics.
Yeah. The who's losing ground, man, I think that is so interesting. And ultimately, I think it really does determine things. But this is interesting to me. I may be out to lunch on this, but I don't know if I don't want to have a whole argument side rail what we're trying to talk about, but at least in the short run, we've talked about the income and education flip-flop of the parties. We've talked about where people are voting by income distribution in the country. I think you can't deny that the upper 10 to 20% of this country in terms of wealth have done phenomenally well. Not just during Trump, but also Trump 1 and Biden 2. The last 10 years.
Yep.
It's been a bonanza for people that have some wealth, especially the last 3 or 4 years. For people that struggle with their income, the pace of inflation has been crushing to people. And I think what you would say is that given enough time, the economic approach that Trump is taking should result in better conditions for those people. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that's probably what you would say. But in the short run, I don't like it's been tough for people. And I wonder how that, how much runway does Trump get to change things for the people that voted for him that are struggling financially?
Well, I filled up at the gas tank this week and it was $2.03. I haven't seen $2 gasoline in a long time. So that's a very anecdotal example, but I think there has been progress. But at the same time, it's kind of like the conversation we had before that one time about the burger at Chili's got raised to $15 over COVID. It's never coming back to $13,
Right.
So there is an element of the prices. Inflation is way down from a rate standpoint. I think it's currently down to like below 3%, but it's unless you have deflation as a nation, like unless your CPI goes backwards, the prices aren't going to come down, and a backwards CPI isn't necessarily a benefit to anybody, So it's kind of I feel like there's a bit of a red herring, and whether that's been propagated by the right or the left. I think you can make arguments both ways, but it's like you're going to reduce the relative inflation, and I think that's been done, but you're not going to bring prices back to where they were 5 years ago.
On some things, you mentioned gas. I have no idea what the price of gasoline is. Number one, I fill up once a month, but it is highly subsidized in my state. Anyway, I have no idea how much gas costs. And gas is a very volatile pricing thing. But to your point, the menu at a restaurant is not volatile. They're a little slow to raise when it starts, but once they raise, they ain't turning it back. Yeah. And, well, let's try to drift back to topic, and I'll throw a couple things out there. If you're, dear listener, headed into a family situation, I got to tell you, Kyle, this podcast has been a breath of fresh air to me because it has forced me to listen to what you're saying about issues. And that's a surprisingly elusive skill in our world today. Because usually you don't listen to the other people. Even when we've had our most contentious times, out of respect for you, I feel like I have to listen to your argument, even when it lands on me like nails on a chalkboard, and let you finish your statement. I think we do decent at that here, not interrupting each other. And it can be hard, but boy, I think that's foundational to getting along. No wonder we're not going to get along when our YouTube feed is pulled with people that are taking out of context things out of context.
Yeah. Well, and I think, two things. One, one of the reasons it works for us is, we genuinely like each other, and we have respect for one another. We love each other. So like, I'm not the whole losing ground bit. I'm not really worried about losing ground, because even if, if I was a flat earther and my whole worldview was proven wrong and I look like a complete idiot, I'd still be your brother. And like there's no like when you get into that thing of losing ground, it's like, well, I don't care if I can lose all the ground to you. It doesn't matter. You're my brother. It's like a safe space to a degree.
Yeah.
I think though with some people, it's not safe, because if you lose that tug of war and you get drug over to the other side may just humiliate you and stomp all over you. You may have that feel emotionally. And so I think there's got to be a level of trust and relationship there, or else, it is a problem.
Well, and by the same token, live by the sword, die by the sword. I think that we all need to, there have been times too when I think I was trying to think of an example, but where you kind of acknowledge that you saw validity in something that I saw, or there've been, like there is no percentage in me trying to gloat if I win my point.
Yeah, same.
This thing, own the libs. Look, I know that there are plenty of people on the left that can be a little shrill and annoying. But the smackdown and humiliation of people as jousting is silly.
Yeah. So I feel there's that piece of it, and then the other piece is, to me, is just you got to somehow put yourself in a neutral zone where you say, no matter what the other person says about my opinion, my view, my quote unquote team, he's not attacking me. He's attacking it. But I think those two kind of go hand in hand, because if you're in a relationship with somebody who's just attacking you, are they really arguing about politics, or are they attacking you? I never feel that like you're attacking me. I feel like we're beating the bushes of the subject. But I don't know. I do think people have to go on guard into situations, because, hopefully people have great relationships with their family members. But the reality is there are family dynamics that are much more, forget about politics. It's not a nice interaction,
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I guess I would also argue that some humility is good for all of us, and I think it helps a little bit to recognize, other than about 538 households, Christmas dinners, and maybe maybe a dozen more for like cabinet officers, whether you win or Uncle Fred wins the argument isn't going to change anything on the planet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, none of us have any power. Which, we got our votes, and but you know what I mean? Like, like the stakes are pretty low over Christmas dinner about who's on what side.
Well, and it seems like the other ground, it's almost like you could write a few ground rules, a manifesto of sorts, ground rules going into a family thing. But like, to me, the first rule ought to be that you got to familiarize you with yourself. No matter what the hell you say, you're not changing anybody's opinion about anything.
No.
They're all going to leave, probably, if you get in an argument, they're probably going to leave with a stronger opinion about whatever their position is than agreeing with you,
I will also say that I like to think, you have to judge this, but before we started down this path, I would hope cross my fingers, I would hope that you would say that I was at least somewhat reflective about, that I didn't go into everything like I knew it all and like my side had it all figured out. And I think that you really have to have, especially in these days of curated media where everything has been filtered before it gets to you, have a little skepticism about what you quote unquote know. It never ceases to surprise me when you bring up, it doesn't happen as often, but you'll bring up something that was a big story that I literally knew nothing about and had to Google it afterwards to figure out what you were talking about. I think the Cracker Barrel logo I heard from you first. That was not on my feed because none of my tribe cares. And but that should tell me something, right? If there are things that are affecting the entire, large swath of the populace that I have no idea they even happened, that's a little worrisome. Yeah. And you got to be self-aware in that way.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the cool things about family get-togethers. I mean, I guess you can look at the family get-together as a challenge of this thing, but you can also look at it like, this is an opportunity to get some diverse perspectives that I wouldn't have gotten, because families, somebody can live in one place and somebody can live in another, and they're probably getting way different feeds and different people, and if you were to go into these situations with hey, maybe I'll learn something, wow, that'd be, if everybody went into a conversation thinking that, like, man, that'd be a way different dialogue.
And if all you learn, seriously, I mean, I think this is a genuine suggestion. If you go in with that open mind, and if all you learn is a little bit about how the ecosystem works on a side other than your own, and it might be a good thing, you're not going to fix every situation, but discussions, rather than arguing about the core of something that is spun different ways to different ones of us, I always find it interesting asking you, how is your media sphere reporting on this? What are you hearing? What are people saying? And that's really illuminating. And that's, in some ways, that seems to me a little less confrontational. Like, I haven't heard about that. Tell me what the backstory is on this. That there was an auto pen. Yeah, they all use an auto pen. And but like, where is that a big deal, and where is that coming from? Where are you? Tell me about what the discussion is about, like that. That openness and receptivity, and making a discussion about sources as a part of that is I think going to be really interesting to people.
Well, was I telling you about this? I'm trying to remember who we were talking to and said this, and I thought it was awesome. And it was somebody we weren't talking about politics, but they were talking about, whenever I'm talking to somebody new, I try to go 15 minutes into the conversation before I ever mention anything about myself. I try to keep them going for 15 minutes about them and their thoughts and their background. And, and if you went into a conversation similar like that, like, I'm going to see how much time I can get out of them. And honestly, if you're worried about political discourse, to some degree, some people, in some of these situations, they just need to get the crap out of their system. And if you sat there and drug them out for 15 minutes, you might get them to spew all their stuff out. And then, it might be a lot easier conversation after that too.
Well, I think that's actually a really good point. And I wonder if 15 minutes isn't a sweet spot, because I got 5 minutes of raging bitching about this country at any given point in time. I mean, I can really spin a narrative of the doom of Western society for about 5 minutes. But then I get tired of that at some point, like, I don't have 15 uninterrupted minutes of everything is broken. Yeah. And if you kind of run out that clock with people, then you I think what you just said is brilliant, that people have got, like, they want to get out what's eating at them.
Yeah.
If you give them that, well, now we can talk about things.
Well, and, family's a little different, but like, whenever we have a get together with people, if we're having people over, I don't mind talking politics, but like, I don't want to create an uncomfortable situation. So I often will try to, if I feel like there's a political angle, I want to get them sharing early, because if they come at it and they come with your viewpoint, I'm probably going to be like, yeah, I know it's crazy what's going on, because, I don't want to create like, but then if they go the opposite, oh yeah, you're right. But, the problem is, because it's so polarized right now, like, I don't want to be the guy that leads with, well, I mean, Trump 28, right? I mean, so you want to get, I think that helps too, to kind of get the lay of the land a little bit.
Well, I've actually seen you in action doing this, and you're really good at it. Kind of, you'll pick the underdog, and kind of just level out the fight to kind of throw a little edge to the other side. The other thing that I've seen you do is you'll take a position that's far enough out that everybody is like, what?
Well,
that's a challenge. That's a challenge anymore, because like, the ability to just lob that extremist hand grenade into it, it is a very effective tool. You've got people that are, they're arguing back and forth about the things that we do argue back and forth. Should there be a Department of Education or not? And, you start with like, I think we ought to teach eugenics in schools. Like, the kind of thing that everybody is really like, yeah, no, I don't. I can't go with you there.
It reminds me of that. I'm sure you've seen the movie Borat, but when he's at the rodeo, and he's like, "We believe in America. We believe in killing every last Iraqi." And the people are like, "Whoa, wait a second."
I think that scene is brilliant, because it starts out with cheers, and like, the longer he goes, and the panning the crowd, and they're like, wait, what did he just and just watching the enthusiasm wane.
Like, no, we're not that bad. Okay. Well, and that too, just a sense of humor, and to your point, you're going to learn something from somebody else that they bring to the table. And then, you're probably not right. I'm not right. Nobody's really got it completely figured out. But I think part of the problem, what I often see in these family dynamics, is I feel like we both have kind of that introspective, kind of objective view. You're going to run into Uncle Fred, who's wearing the MAGA hat, that is, Fox News at volume 100, and he can't change it, or vice versa. The liberal side, you're going to get the exact opposite. Everybody's Hitler. And it's like, those are the people you don't want to have an argument with. I mean, you're better off keeping them completely, hey, let's talk about botanical stuff, or something,
Yeah.
Oh, not botanicals. That might be marijuana. Maybe, I don't know.
You're gonna argue cannabis with Uncle Fred?
You know who I'm talking about too in our family. I'm not going to say a name, but a family friend who I remember we were up at the cabin one time, and he's railing on you on abortion or something, and he just can't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, we don't need to have that fight here, but like, some people cannot turn it off for the life of them.
Yeah, it's interesting, and you wonder why are you so invested in this? I mean, again, I go back to the stakes are low kind of a thing. It's really difficult for me to imagine a legislative outcome of our government that would be worth jeopardizing my relationship with you.
Yeah.
You and I love to throw down on this stuff. And long before like people were losing their minds over politics, we lost there was a drive from Boise, Idaho to Salt Lake City via Wendover that was fairly involved in terms of dialogue. And this is long before Trump ever thought about being president. So
yeah.
But we've enjoyed
trip? Was that the same trip that I got gazpacho and Gestapo confused with each other?
No, because the screaming between Wendover and Salt Lake, that was just you and me. We had the rest of the fam.
Okay.
But, in truth, we've always enjoyed sparring about that stuff, and it's been a topic of interest. It's a hard thing for people, and it's especially hard when you've got and I don't want to be that person. You got somebody in a family who's the odd one out. I'm by far a minority in our family, but I don't want to be the one that some people don't like talking about this, and I don't want to be the one that just drags everybody into it. That's not healthy for anybody.
But I mean, I think we've always enjoyed, to some degree, the sparring, and it's more like and I think that kind of sparring you like to do even when you were on the other side of the fence. We've kind of played with that a little bit. I think also in general, our family's always been very politically interested. Kind of like I said, 30 years ago, a lot of people weren't talking about politics. We were always talking about politics. That was always a big part of our family dialogue. And I always laugh because my wife, one of the first times she was with the family, we were all, because, mom and dad used to be in the house and there was like this family room, and you'd go up there for a holiday, and it's like, you're doing time in that family room, just slinging it the whole time. But sessions up there one time, and my wife was telling, she always tells a story because our sister says, go around the room, tell us your top 3 first ladies and why, and everybody's going around, and my wife is like, I don't know that I know more than 3. So, but, we've been very much into that. But, that reminds me of another thing, too, that I think part of what happens in these family dynamics, too, and that some people can feel insulted. And that's something, obviously you try to avoid. But I think depending on the dynamics of the family, we've talked about this before, and some of it is the current political climate where if, for instance, hypothetically, you had a bunch of people that worked at a university and they were with a family of people that, another part of the family that was maybe a more of a working class family and not super focused on education, very likely that working class family might be, in today's environment, they could be Trump voters, and somebody, the highly educated, may be more liberal. And there's like a class versus class and an education versus education thing that happens. And sometimes it becomes like a condescension element of, well, you're just my dumb relative that doesn't know better. It's like, I think that's an angle that I think is hard for people, very hard.
Absolutely. And I will say that is, in my mind, has been the core mistake that the left has made. I mean, a lot of mistakes, but I go back to, well, I'm going to answer the question respond in a short way, but then I'm going to babble a little bit. I think that the left has a huge condescension problem. And I think that a lot of people on the left drink their own Kool-Aid. They think that we've got it figured out. It is really dangerous. This is not just a political thing. This is what Jesus meant when he talked about the rich young ruler. The problem with wealth is that you start to believe your own press, that you consider your success to be evidence of being right. And you become less self-critical. And I think the condescension from the left, I've felt it for a long time. I don't think I've ever felt it more blatantly clearly the day after the 2024 election when Trump won. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have alienated a huge swath of, the young men who, you know what I mean? Like this was not a foregone conclusion outcome, but I think the left has been tone deaf about the way we talk about people, dismissive and condescending. I go back to Hillary Clinton has the ability to say good morning and it sound condescending. But when she teamed up with Debbie Wasserman Schultz and they stabbed Bernie Sanders in the back in 2016, like this has rolled downhill from there. That is a huge problem for the left, and it's going to be insurmountable if they can't get out from underneath that.
You know what's so ironic about that, too? You mentioned Hillary Clinton. That problem was much more of a problem on the right 20, 30 years ago. And Clinton was the one that kind of changed that, because Clinton originally had like this alternative viewpoint against the elite people that had everything figured out, and so it's so funny that like he was so relatable to, the guy the guy sweeping the floors, yet his wife is not remotely relatable. But was she then, or did she change? I don't know. She never seemed to be super personable even back then, but I don't know.
Well, and I can't lay this all at Hillary's feet, but I think that you know what I mean when I say that. You can just see it patently obvious. The other thing that's interesting, not to dwell on this, but talk about Bill Clinton. I would say a lot of this demographic shift to the left for the highly educated and more financially elite, that all happened under Clinton too. He rejected kind of Tip O'Neill, labor Democrat kind of standards. And Bill Clinton, the Democrat, puts Robert Rubin in as the Secretary of the Treasury. The guy was the chair of Goldman Sachs, and balanced the budget and welfare reform. And you tick off these things. And Clinton's version of liberalism was very palatable to the elites in the way that Teddy Kennedy's version of liberalism was not.
Yeah, it's like he won with one demographic and then kind of flipped the script over 8 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And some people would say, you probably would disagree, but different dynamics, but that's part of what I see with Trump. I think Trump has ridden the disgruntled and disenfranchised who wanted action. They wanted the swamp drained and the bums thrown out, and that may or may not be. It's certainly been a better time to be a billionaire over the last, well, again, I can't say very many years because Biden's right in there, but over the last 10 years, it was far better to be a billionaire than someone on minimum wage. And then I think, what kind of a statement is that? Like, what period in history would it have been preferable to be someone earning minimum wage to being a billionaire?
Yeah.
Well, I think the final piece of advice I would derive from the title of our podcast, the role of alcohol in providing for civil family discourse. It's a pretty narrow therapeutic index. We, of course, think that having a drink or two is a pretty good, can be a pretty good way to loosen things up. Probably 5 or 6, not so much. And so if you decide to have a cocktail with your loved ones, maybe 1 or 2.
The difference between taking the edge off the fiery political dialogue and the 911 call for domestic violence, it's a pretty short path, so be careful there.
Well, and with that, dear listeners, cheers to you, and a Merry Christmas and a happy season to you and your families.
Yeah, same. Enjoy this time, and we're honored that you listen to our podcast. And we'll probably do another one over the holidays, but I think this was kind of we wanted to do this in prep of Christmas, but the next one might be, somewhere after in that vicinity.
Shortly thereafter, hopefully.
Yeah.
We do appreciate you listening. It's always great to hear from people. Send us a note. It's really fun to hear from people who listen and gives us a lot of satisfaction. We've enjoyed this process immensely, and we're grateful for all of you.
And we would really love topics too. We try not to just do topics of the daily news grind, because that can be kind of monotonous, but because I would bring up the E word again. But
I knew you were going to do it.
So I won't say it, but please, we'd love to hear your topics. Maybe we'll get something a little more refreshed than the normal day-to-day. That'd be great.
Indeed. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Bourbon and Rum Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us keep the good spirits flowing.
And we invite you to join this conversation. Follow us on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear.
And until next time, cheers.